Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to the history of video games. My name is Wes, and I am here with Ben. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing great. How are you, Wes?
I am doing pretty good. It's been a weird time. We are recording in the height of the Pennsylvania being proactive and quarantining for the coronavirus. So it's an interesting time to be a gamer with lots of games coming out and much time at home.
Yep. But weirdly enough, I haven't actually played that many games. You've definitely played more than I have. But
well, that's because you're productive, Ben, and you're doing your personal projects, whereas I just bought like 5 games and I'm playing a bunch of stuff.
Hey, that's a personal project.
Yeah, true. I like to think of it that way.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, I've been playing a little bit of RuneScape, getting back into that because I can kind of do it while I work from home. So don't tell my boss that, but...
Oh, what if they listen to this podcast? You're boned.
I know, but hey, it's basically an AFK game. I mean, I've been fishing, and all you do is you click the fish spot, and then you kind of like check back in a couple minutes, and you're like, oh, I had to click the fish spot again. or you know, like, oh, my inventory is full, so I guess I'll leave now, you know? And that's kind of it. So I've gained like 10 fishing levels, which has been nice. But
oh, there you go.
It was weird. The one time RuneScape was like, you've been playing for a couple hours, maybe you should stop. I was like, damn, just like relax, I'm working right now.
It's like they don't know that they're in a AFK game.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so I've been doing that a bit. I've been playing StarCraft. I got a new personal record in StarCraft. I got into Diamond 2, which now puts me in like the top 25% of worldwide players. Which before nice. I was always around like the top 1/3, you know, kind of in that 30% kind of range. So I've never been here before. I played a couple games in Diamond 2 and I won about 50% of them. And I was like, hey, that's good enough for me.
It's a good sign. Yeah.
So now I kind of want to go back and do it on random races.
Right. Because you were playing Zerg for this one?
Yeah. Because I kind of redid some key bindings and I was like, oh, Zerg is incredibly difficult to play with these new key bindings, so I had to just focus on them for a while, and now they're there, you know, they're good now. So I kind of want to do Terran next, and then Protoss is my weakest race. I'm thinking maybe I'll just cannon rush people if I get them. So, I don't know, yeah, but I think that's going to be the next thing. But nice. What have you been doing, Wes?
I have been doing, I mean, I follow the trends, I feel like, of what comes out, and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks super exciting, so I get that. So, of course, I'm going to be covering probably next time we record the 2 big releases that came out on March 20th that the internet was cracking up that they happened on the same day. Doom Eternal, the sequel to the new Doom reboot in 2016, and Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Switch, which there's a couple streams I was watching where they had mashups of the title, and it was called like Doom Crossing Eternal Horizons, and they would just like switch off between playing Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because they're starkly different. But anyway, don't want to get too much into that because my brother bought Doom and I bought Animal Crossing, so I'm going to play both of them and probably talk about it in the next episode. But other big releases, one other big release, Call of Duty Warzone, I've been playing a lot of. For those of you that don't know what Warzone is, this just came out like, I want to say 2 weeks ago or a week ago even. It's a free-to-play based off of the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare game Battle Royale mode. So you just have to install it from Battle.net or whichever. I think there's an Activision launcher that you can use as well. It's an 80 gig download, which is ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I mean, it probably installed all of the Modern Warfare game too, because as soon as you boot up, it's like, hey, do you want to buy the main Modern Warfare game? And you have to say like no a couple times and dodge it every now and then. So I'm wondering if they didn't just like load all that anyway. Well, and also everything they need to get the game running anyway, because it's basically the whole Modern Warfare game. You just don't have the campaign and the multiplayer and all that. But the game itself, I mean, it's very Battle Royale, as with like following in the same vein as a lot of stuff that's been coming out recently. It takes a lot of stuff from Apex Legends that came out recently, and also takes a lot of stuff from, I would even say, Fortnite and Firestorm, which was the not super popular Battlefield 5 Battle Royale that came out. and it is really fun. I mean, part of it's the hype of it being like, the first week or so that it released, so everybody's playing it. A lot of people are streaming it. It's a really good time to play it. But it also just does a lot of cool stuff where like you don't have to put weapon attachments on guns. They just kind of come with the attachments on them, and you find different rarities of gun, and they just have more attachments basically depending on the rarity. So if you like a faster style of gameplay, it makes it really good for that. One of my issues in Apex Legends was just like managing all the different attachments, knowing that my gun wasn't optimally set up, and then just getting like owned by people later.
Mm-hmm.
Or like while I'm in menus, basically. Where this one I can kind of just pick something up, run, I'm good to go. And it also takes like there's no armor rarity kind of stuff. You just have like refillable armor that you have to keep refilling every time you get shot. And when the first time you die, you get thrown into the gulag from like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original, whichever one where Captain Price is in a Russian prison. I can't keep track. But you get thrown into there, and you have to do a 1v1, and whoever wins gets redeployed. So you get like an extra life the first time if you win the 1v1. Yeah, it makes this real interesting mechanic, and also if you die really early, you're not just like totally screwed. You still have a chance to come back and win it if you want to.
Right.
Yeah, and it's been really fun. Humble brag, got my first win last night.
Oh yeah.
It's a 3-man squads. It was all of our first win. As with all battle royales, definitely some luck involved, but I mean, we got a decent amount of kills. We weren't just ratting it up in the bushes the whole time. So yeah, that's been really fun, and I've really been enjoying that. And the other one I wanted to talk about is I've also been playing lots more Escape from Tarkov, which I'd mentioned before. It's like vastly different going in between that and Warzone, because Warzone, you're just sprinting around everywhere, mowing people down. Tarkov, I'm sitting in a bush for 10 minutes because I heard one footstep, and I'm carrying like 200,000 rubles worth of gear, and I'm like, I can't lose it, or else all my money goes down the drain. So it's very different, but there is something like that I love about how frustrating Escape from Tarkov is, which usually doesn't happen for me when I play games. I usually like single player stuff that I can, that's a challenge, but I can kind of get through quickly. This is one of the first like PvP games where I'm actually like, okay, I want to spend the time to get good at this. Something about it super rewarding when you just like own somebody with tons of gear, get out of there, and just make loads of money so you can buy more gear that you can then lose. But you try not to think about that in the moment. So I've been having lots of fun with that. A lot of shooting games recently, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. Both really fun times. None that I can really do AFK while I'm at work, but I still find a way to somehow.
That sounds cool. I'm honestly pretty surprised how well the Call of Duty one has been doing.
It's been super popular.
I felt like that whole genre was kind of like starting to go down a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little weird because part of it feels like the timing from everyone being on self-quarantine or mandated quarantine like really helped out with it. Like, not that they knew, but they just kind of released it, and then everyone's like, well, I'm home anyway. I guess I'm going to play this new battle royale that's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. What's the sort of how are they monetizing this? Is it just cosmetic stuff?
As far as I can tell, yeah, just cosmetics, using the same like battle pass model that's in tons of free games, where it's like you unlock different cosmetics as you play the game if you bought into this $10, $20, however much it is pass. And also they do like pre-made weapon combinations, like it'll come with a skin and then a couple of attachments already put on it. So I guess that's an incentive if you don't feel like leveling up the weapon to get all the attachments unlocked. I'm not sure. It's nothing that's super compelling for me personally, but there are some cool looking skins there.
Like, are these like mainly weapon skins or like your character? Because I imagine Call of Duty characters are all pretty generic looking, right? I mean, you don't want to be standing out in like pink garb, in the middle of the desert or wherever it is. I don't know.
You would think, but they do that. There's this one guy, they just gave him like his they have operators now, which I mean, kind of taking a page from like Rainbow Six Siege, where it's just like these different characters that you can pick. And as far as I know, also all of them are locked unless you pay money, so you can only be the default operator. But some of them have some pretty bright and crazy skins. I think one of them was like a leprechaun or something. Like,
what the hell?
yeah, right? Like, you'd think it would be detrimental. A lot of them blend in anyway. They just have like cool little things. Like this one guy just has like a devil mask, but then the rest of him is a ghillie suit.
Okay.
So I guess he can get away with it.
Yeah, that kind of makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. I actually don't know about the leprechaun. That's just in the promo art for one of the packs. It might be a more subdued costume in the actual game. But yeah, I see what you're saying. They didn't go too crazy with it, but there was some interesting stuff there.
Okay, cool.
And that's
All right, nice.
That's pretty much what I've been doing. Did you want to start getting into our special topic for today?
Yeah, I'm just gonna get into it a little bit because I kind of ran out of time a little bit today. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Sol 20 computer today. The reason why is because we're gonna be covering some games for it later in the episode. So it's been around for what, a year now, just about. I don't know. They started making it in '75, I want to say. I think the first one was built early '76, and the more general release was in July of '76. So it's quite new, and the reason why it's kind of super important and does relatively well is because it's the first fully assembled microcomputer or personal computer, meaning that it came like right away with a keyboard and with a TV output. So it's kind of crazy to think that most of the computers at the time didn't have those things, but most of them you had to connect them later. Like, there were other peripherals. They didn't just, like, when you bought the computer, it didn't come with that stuff. So
Right.
to have one that was marketed towards consumers, towards average people that had these peripherals with them was a big deal, and obviously helped make it something that the average person could use a lot better and a lot easier. So yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about who made it, Wes?
Sure, yeah. And I also did have a little bit more about the hardware of it too. I didn't do tons of research into it, but the fact that it's like a huge feature that this has a port for a TV display makes me wonder, like, how much work you had to put in to get a display for any of the other microcomputers that came out before this one.
Right.
Like, I think the Altair computers, you must have had like a module that you had to buy separately to attach to be able to pair it with a TV display. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But so they really tried to bundle everything together, like you were saying. They did have different packs for it. There was the Sol PC, the Sol 10, and the Sol 20, I think. And
did I say Sol? I completely forget now.
You said Sol, and
I didn't try that.
I'm sure
it just happened.
Both switch interchangeably between it. We were just talking about before we started recording this episode. There is actually some information saying that it is pronounced Sol because it was named after the editor of Popular Electronics, Les Solomon, who actually came up with the idea, or at least the original, like, sort of basic framework and setup for what this computer would be. And Lee Felsenstein, I have no idea if I'm saying that right, claimed that it was sort of in homage to him, saying they were using the wisdom of Solomon, which is a very dramatic way to word it. And I definitely thought they were talking about like biblical King Solomon when I first read that. But anyway.
Yeah, but it's spelled S-O-L, which looks like soul. So that's, just watch out, people.
Right, yeah. And I feel like so many things are like Latin and Greek based that it was just like sol for sun, or like Spanish sol for sun. So I don't know. It makes sense as sol for me. The guy said it's Sol, so we should probably trust him. We're definitely both going to mess it up multiple times through this podcast just to prepare you.
Yep.
But getting back into the hardware a little bit, it was sort of based on the Intel 8080 processor with the motherboard that it used. The kit version of it, which wasn't fully assembled, sold originally for $995. And when it was the fully assembled version, which is the Sol 20 that we're talking about, it was $1,495, which I didn't double check to make sure that was in currency of the time, but I think it was, in which case that is a pretty expensive computer.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I saw some conflicting sources about how many were made and sold over different timelines. It looked like it stayed in production until 79. Around 12,000 units were sold, maybe about 10,000 in the first year, but I couldn't find specific numbers on that. So it didn't it wasn't super popular. It did seem like people were kind of talking about this as it did a lot of things that the Apple II also was going to do, but the Apple II just kind of gained tons more traction when it came out.
Yeah, it's also interesting to me that this one, I think, like I see a lot of information on it because the people who made it had influence in a lot of like the articles and periodicals that were being written at the time. There's a lot of ads for it, more than almost any other computer that I see. And maybe you could speak more on that because I know one of the guys is from, or the leader of Popular Electronics, which is one of the many, periodicals that kind of circulate. And one guy's also the head of the Homebrew Computer Club, where like Bill Gates was and stuff. So I think it didn't might not have sold to the public as well as they wanted to, but like there was a core group of people that were really all about it for a time.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of articles published on it, a ton of user groups, including the Sole Users Group, which was Homebrew Computer Club and Palo Alto's group, like you were talking about. And I told the story a little bit backwards, but Les Solomon, who we were talking about, who this was named after and came up with sort of the original idea, is the guy who was the main editor for Popular Electronics that we were talking about.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so they definitely, a lot of people who were really invested in sort of just the personal computing time that was going on in this whole like personal computing movement really liked this computer and were really talking about it a lot. There was a bunch of magazines that were setting up meetings for people to write programs onto cassette tapes so that they could exchange them between their Sol 20 computers. I already said Sol 20 once, dang. And even see which cassette tape writing and reading machines worked best with the Sol 20. So there was a pretty dedicated fan base, but after 79 and several successful personal computers came out like the Apple II after the Sol 20, and then apparently Processor Technology Corporation, which made the Sol 20, went on to release some products that didn't really do very well. They ended up going bankrupt in 79. So there's a combination of factors that sort of led to the Sol 20 not being super commercially popular, but it definitely is really important, and as we're going to see, has some pretty cool games on it too.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much everything I had for it too. Any closing words on that, Ben?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just it's a computer that I've seen quite a lot, so it kind of surprises me that it didn't take off, didn't have that long-term success. But we're at the very last episode of 79 right now. We're about to go over to 1977. Oh, 76 right now. We're about to go over to 77, and there's what's called like the Holy Trinity of computers that get released in 77, including the Apple II. So it's just kind of one of those things where I guess it just becomes outdated immediately,
Right.
And everybody just drops it. But it's a little sad because I think they had a lot of good ideas here and obviously had a lot of community support, behind it. But I'm not really sure why it didn't continue to innovate. Maybe they were just trying to cash in on it. And,
or maybe they went a different direction that kind of didn't build on the Sol 20, so it didn't end up being very popular. I'm not too sure the specifics, but either way, it's definitely an important entry, and it'll be exciting to be able to talk about some games on it.
Yeah, definitely. So why don't we head on over to the games list right now?
Oh yeah.
Hello and welcome back from that amazing music that you heard. I don't know what it is, but I don't need to know.
You need
I'll
to know.
figure it
That's
out
all
later.
that matters.
Yeah.
The audience.
Yeah. But let's move right into it. We've got a couple games to go through before the Sol 20 stuff. And like a lot of consoles. A lot of consoles that I knew came out sometime in 76, but I didn't really know exactly when. So I kind of put them right after my 8500 stuff, which you guys heard last time, which is why they're all coming up now. But this first one, we've got some AY3 8500 games. Oh yeah, we're back in it.
Oh boy.
but they've got color this time. And the reason they have color is they have the AY38515 chip, I want to say, as well, which was basically just like a little extra thing you could have on your console to have it, be in color. Now, the exact color that the games were depended on the manufacturer still. So even though I know a couple of consoles that came out around this time, like the color is similar, but they're slightly different, like one to the next. So the real one that I needed to cover for this part of the timeline was the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter, model 7705. And this basically just played the 6 games, so including the light gun games of the AY38500, but they were in color. And the color was actually pretty cool on it. One of the shooting games, and I want to say it was Squash, they had like a blue background. All the text and paddles were white. No, the 2-player handball was in blue. The 1-player was in green. Tennis was also in green. And then hockey and target were in like a reddish purple background. But unfortunately, there's no like records of that. There's no video. There's no emulation. We do have pictures, luckily on the box, of the Sharpshooter. It kind of showed what each of those looked like. So that's how I know it had color. But I couldn't play it, so I was like, well, do I really just want to pass over the AY38500 color? Because there's going to be so many next year. I don't want to do it again next year, Wes.
You are right. Get it out of the way in 76, but it's just slightly not relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, the scores are about to go way down for this guy, but so I thought about it for a while and I was like, you know what? Why don't I take one of the 77 ones and I'll just kind of use that because it's the same chip, the same games. It's made by a different person. I actually looked at 2 here. The main one was the Honeybell Video Sport, which comes out in 77. I'll briefly mention it in 77, maybe. There's a lot of consoles that follow this, so maybe we'll just be like, you can check it out online, but one of them was the Honeybell, and that was the main one I checked out. So this one is slightly different. It didn't have the like blue backgrounds, red backgrounds, and green backgrounds. Instead, all the backgrounds were green. However, one player's paddles were blue, one player's paddles were yellow, the horizontal boundaries were yellow, and then the score and any vertical boundary was in red or pink. So it had a couple colors going on, but they were the same game to game to game. So the games actually felt a bit less unique because of that. But overall, there's some color here that you can, honestly, not having color was one of the biggest criticisms of the AY38500.
Right.
So having it actually does make it feel like, oh, this is a lot better, even though the gameplay and sound and everything else is not changed at all. So let me start by going through the ratings that have not changed really. I basically used my Odyssey 300 scores as kind of a basis for this because I used the AY38500 chip. Of course, this one does have the target shooting games, although I don't think the Honeybell does, but the original one that like this whole segment is kind of based around, the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter, that one did have it. But so let's start with gameplay. Actually, for gameplay, I give it 2 out of 10. You've got your 4 Pong games. You do have the light gun game, so it's a little bit better for the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter. So 2 out of 10. But we've seen all this stuff before. The light gun games are not like the best light gun games in the world, as Wes can attest.
Yes. Yep.
And and I can tell you from the Binatone, which I did last time. So it's really not anything to go by. But 2 out of 10, I just didn't want to be too angry about it. For sound, I just gave 1 out of 10. I mean, this is the same Pong sounds as every other AY38500, so nothing's changed there. And then for graphics, so this is the real one that I'm basing all this off of. We have color graphics, and it's on the AY38500, which if you guys remember, even in black and white, they looked like pretty sharp for the AY38500. Like, they're pretty nice looking graphics, but like by now we've seen the Odyssey 500, and we've seen the same games with sprites. We've seen Super Pong, the same game, but in rainbow. We've seen the Adversary Model 370, which had color graphics that were true color, and this is true color too, but I feel like the Adversary did it even better. So I don't know, and there's some weird things too, like that I kind of forget about the AY3 8500. Like the score's on screen the whole time, and it's in the playing area, and I'm like, shouldn't you fix this?
Right. Yeah.
But that's just what the AY3 8500 is. So, I did. Does it look better in color? Yeah, it looks a lot better in color. To be honest, it feels like it's not a 75 console anymore. But it doesn't really feel like a 77 console either, and that's coming up next episode. So, yeah, it's kind of in that weird territory for me where it's not exactly good, but it's not exactly bad either. But, I mean, to be fair, looking at it now, like the games that are coming out now, we still do have a lot of black and white games coming out, but they're all with like the AY3 8500 and other chips that we've already talked about. So, realistically, are we going to be rating a console that's worse than this? I kind of don't think so. Like, this is, I think, going to be like the lowest that we're going to see for a while. But I don't know. I give it a 2.75 out of 10 because I was right on the edge. I was like 2.5, 3. Now it can't be 3. So maybe that's still a little generous. What do you think, Wes?
I don't know.
Maybe I can send you a screenshot and you can judge it.
It depends. The fact that I had 4 or 5 different colors does seem pretty nice, but I get what you're saying, where it's like that kind of takes. Well, this is for the Honeybell. It sort of takes the character out of each one. So the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter would have had different background colors for each game. So I think that's pretty nice, but still, it's not. If that's all that's really changing, I don't know if a 2.75's too mean. I think you might either be right on, or you could even knock them down lower. But that's
maybe the thing I should say too is I'm kind of rating the chip, and not just the single Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter, which means that console manufacturers, when they use this chip, they can, make each game feel a little bit better by having different colors and doing more with the color. Like, this is just allowing color to be available. So I think maybe these two examples are not like the best two examples, but the Wonder Wizard came out in 76. The Honeybell, I just had a pretty good video of, I found pretty fast. So that's why I did those two, but I kind of was thinking, let's keep it at 275 because I might not necessarily see the best games that use this feature.
Right.
But I'm not really going to go through every single 8500 a color game and check that. So, like, you guys will see there's probably, hold on, I have the list already. For 77, it's going to be several hundred that use the AY3 8500 chip, and unfortunately, almost all of them do not mention if they have the AY 8515 either.
Yikes.
Because it's kind of like a sub, because it doesn't change the gameplay at all. So most of these games just say 8500 and then say like color version or something like that, So, we only have a limited amount of time, and at the end of the day, the only thing that they can change are basically what's already present. The backgrounds, the vertical lines that kind of contain the playing area, the paddles, the score. That's it. And they're not putting sprites in. They're not doing anything else. So it's just, what color do you like looking at?
Right.
So
exactly.
There might be better combinations of that stuff, but for the most part, like, I think the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter and the Honeybell are pretty good examples for like the majority of them. So, yeah. And that gives me, for my relevance now, a 6 out of 10. I wanted to like keep it a little bit high because I do feel like because the AY3 8500 is so influential, having that turn into like a color thing is kind of pushing the whole market into like this thing where color is now like mandatory. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just because the AY3 8500 is so popular, I do think it, like, them having a color version of it is pushing the whole market a little bit into that kind of new realm. So, although not as fast as I would want, as we'll see later. But yeah, so it has to be somewhat relevant because it is the AY3 8500, and there's so many of them. But yeah, that gives me a total of 2.75 out of 10. the same as my graphics rating. I'm still like, I don't know. I'm on the edge about this, Wes. But maybe it's just because we've seen it so many times already. This is the fourth AY3 8500 game that we've reviewed. It will be the last, I believe. But it's not it's not going to be the last AY3 something because there's
Right.
other ones of those. But yeah, I just felt like I couldn't skip it though. Like this is
Yeah.
like the last version of it. It has color down. That's one of our biggest criticisms of the AY3 8500. But did it help? Like it did help, but also everybody else has gotten a lot better since we asked for it. So it's a little bit too good, too late.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way about it. And it is tough because it's like, okay, they did what we asked for, but it's still not great. So,
Yeah. Well, it's just like we've played the Fairchild by now,
right. Exactly.
and the Fairchild's way better than this. So they did it first, and I actually don't know exactly when some of these like when the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter came out, but there were like multiple Wonder Wizard games before this, so it didn't come out that early in the year. And even if it did, the Fairchild being so close to it, I mean, it just made it so irrelevant. And also the Odyssey 500, we don't have a firm date on that. I mean, there's a lot of these games that, even though we asked for it, by now we are expecting more. People have just made better consoles, so
Right.
it's kind of sad because I think if they had done this right away, like the next big Telstar release was in color, which it wasn't, or if the Odyssey 300 was in color, which it wasn't, that could have been a much bigger impact, and maybe by the very end of the year, the AY3 8500 people would have done something else. But I think the kind of curse and gift of the AY3 8500 is that nobody stops using it.
Right. Yeah.
It's just too cheap and too many people are buying them, I guess. But yeah, so that's the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter / Honeybell Video Sports Color Edition. So, and just so you guys remember, the Honeybell did come out in 77, but I mean, we're basically there. So, this is the last 76, which means, by the way, next episode, Wes, we got to do our top games of 76, which is going to be extremely hard. Because we've had so many good ones. But
I mean, we've just talked about the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter, so I'm going to have to change my ratings right now.
Why? You probably, well, no, you do what you need to do, Wes. You're going to be talking about another console here that's very similar, I'm assuming. So
Yes,
why don't you just I feel like I'm the nice guy, Wes. You be the bad cop now and give it give it what people want.
I'm going to tear this to shreds, basically. No, okay, maybe not that bad, but still. So the name of this game is the name of the game. I did that on purpose because it's confusing, but this console is called Name of the Game, and it's by Allied Leisure, a name we've seen around a lot, but this is actually their first entry into the home console market. And possibly their last entry. I didn't do much research on it, but it sounded like this might be all that they do as far as home consoles.
Yeah, they come out with the Name of the Game 2, I think, and then that's it. That they don't do anything else.
And those actually released at the same time because they were just different versions of the same console.
Right.
So this actually came out in December, and if as I'm going through this, it seems like it is a little further behind the times than it should be, that is because they thought it was going to come out in October and that they were going to have plenty of time to prepare it for December, but the FCC didn't approve it to be sold until December, right before Christmas season.
I wonder why they did that. I bet you all these other ones just didn't go through the FCC. That's my guess.
Yeah, it sounds like there were tons of requests going in, and like there wasn't a good channel for them to be approved because it was sort of a new industry. So who knows? Maybe they're just like pulling straws out of a hat or something. Like I don't. But either way, this one ended up coming out later than they expected and didn't do super well commercially because of that. But just to talk about the console itself for a little bit, it was sort of just like weird brown trapezoid kind of thing. It was a brown plastic. It sort of looked like the base of a pyramid, maybe, with a box on top of it that holds 4 controllers and wires. The controllers are just these like flat paddles with a dial on the face of them. And it looks like 2 of the players also had a serve button, but not all 4 players, if I looked at the controllers right. And then it also had a light gun controller, which I think is very similar or the exact same as the light gun controller for the AY3 8500 that a lot of people have been using. And in the same way as those, it basically just looks like a gun. Like, if you don't get too close to it, you won't be able to tell that it's just like this plastic toy light gun.
Right. Yeah. By the way, I forgot to say the Wonder Wizard gun that I had for the Sharpshooter, the namesake of it. It was like this one of those like 6-barrel pistol things. What are they called?
Oh, a revolver.
Yeah, it's like a revolver. It was pretty cool looking. Again, very realistic looking.
Right, right.
The controllers look terrible though. I don't know what the heck they were doing.
Yeah, these aren't too great either. And the name of the game, too, that we were talking about is just a two-player version of name of the game. So it only had two controllers and I think all of the same game modes, but only two-player versions. So this originally was pretty cheap. It sold for $67 at the time, and it used the Mostec MCS 7600001 chip, which the more I look at it, I'm starting to think is either a licensed version of the AY3 8500 or they just like straight ripped it off. Because as you'll see when I'm getting into these games, they're basically exactly the same. The only difference is that these had a colored background, but all the details were white, similar to the AY3 8515 that Ben was just talking about. So getting into the gameplay for these, it seems like there's a few different games or maybe slightly different game modes. It's hard to tell. But across the board, it's basically just hockey with 2 players. It looked like soccer with 4 players, where you can someone controls a forward, someone controls the goalie on each side. Tennis doubles, squash, and then the light gun games, which were sort of just these weird square floating on a background target shooting kind of games. A nice feature about this one that I don't think any of the AY3 8500 ones we've covered so far had is that one of the team's paddles in soccer and hockey actually looked slightly different. It was sort of a broken line on the top and bottom instead of just a solid paddle. So there was that nice visual effect there, but nothing too crazy. And of course, there was also a break in the wall for the goal for these. In tennis, weirdly enough, all of the walls were solid, but you could just score through the wall.
What?
Unless that was a visual effect, but it looked like they were trying to differentiate it from hockey with like there's no gap here to score, it's just a solid wall. But then
Weird.
squash also was a solid wall, except it was actually solid because it's squash this time. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't a visual defect. I think it was just a weird choice that they made for this. And this did have, though, the screen or the score pop up on the screen really big after a point, but then disappears after. So it did have that going for it. It wasn't just score on the screen the whole time. Getting into my ratings for this, for graphics, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. No color graphics other than the fact that the background is a solid color.
Okay, so kind of like the Wonder Wizard Sharpshooter, except like it didn't have to be. Like the other console people could have changed it for the last one, but this one it seems like that's all they got.
Yes, yeah, because it's this different chip. And I watched a video of a console using this same chip that came out a little bit later, and every single background was orange for that. The video of this original console that we found, it was hard to tell the color for the background, but I'm assuming it was just a solid color, and it was the same color for every single game on the console. So same with the AY3 8500. God, that's hard to say. The main positives about the graphics for this is just that the lines and graphics are pretty clear and crisp. And this has the benefit of the disappearing score screen.
Nice.
And the differentiation between the paddles and soccer. But other than that, not too much crazy going on graphically for this.
There's no weird sprites of people half kicking
No.
or something, you know, I forget what
Yeah.
they're doing. Jumping
Or
jacks.
The dudes in squash who were just T-posing. Yeah, nothing like that.
That was such a good one.
It was.
By the way, just
partly for its weirdness, just like the Odyssey.
yeah.
For sound for this, I gave it a 1 out of 10. It's the exact same Pong sounds as all the other AY3 8500 consoles. Nothing special. So just brush that aside. Okay, on to gameplay. For gameplay, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. It actually looks really nice and smooth. And, you know, it's really easy to tell what's happening. The light gun games look okay, not great, but, you know, it's something different than just straight Pong. but it doesn't really, we've seen all of this before, and there's nothing really that this chip does that differentiates it from any other console gameplay wise. So going on to my relevance, I gave it a 5 out of 10. It's Allied Leisure's first and last home gaming console, so I think it's relevant in that respect because we've seen Allied Leisure around a lot, and they've done a lot of arcade cabinets, and they were doing a lot of pinball games too around this time or before this time. But it really just feels like more Pong console noise in a time when we're about to start getting inundated with hundreds of consoles.
Yep.
So to me, this just seems like, hey, it's a new chip that's doing the exact same thing. It's a prime example of how saturated the market was about to get with all these similar products. So overall, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10, sticking in theme with my graphics and gameplay. I think it's okay for a Pong console in 76. I mean, it does have that color background, but other than that, there's only very minor graphical changes, like the score disappearing and the paddle looking slightly different. But the paddles themselves aren't color, and it just seems really behind the times for the end of the year 76.
Right.
Maybe you can blame the FCC for that, but I don't know if we really can.
I don't think we can, because I can tell you for a fact, Wes, that consoles come out next year with this exact same chip.
Oh boy.
So yeah, they're not learning. But I feel like this is kind of a unique one though, because Allied Leisure is a fairly successful arcade game manufacturer that's made some good stuff, and this being their only console, it is one of the more collectible ones, I want to say.
Yeah, I definitely like it from that aspect, and I mean, because it looks weird, it also is sort of unique in that way too. It's a funky looking kind of piece, and exactly the fact that it has the Allied Leisure name, and you can get friends together and laugh at the fact that a company decided to call a console name of the game.
Yeah.
So it definitely has some value in it there.
And the chip is the first one by MOSTech too, which is a brand new chip manufacturer. So that's kind of important as well, although they're not very relevant, to be honest. They come out with this chip, I think one more, which is like the European version of it, and that's kind of it. But I do think it's interesting when we see other people's attempts to make the 8500, even if it is just slightly different, we'll say.
Right. And to be honest, I did kind of glaze over it in this, but 4-player mode, that is nice. We don't see that in all the other consoles, so
yeah, that's a good point.
It is cool to have the option for 4-player game modes.
But let's keep moving on here. We got another console coming up. This one I actually really wanted to review because it uses a brand new chip again, the Texas Instruments TMS 1955 chip. And unlike MOSTech, this chip and this company, Texas Instruments, will actually make a lot of different chips in the future. They're a lot more relevant. So I kind of wanted to take a look at it, but I started looking at it and I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. The console in question is called the Game-Attic. It's a game, am I saying that right? Game-Attic 7600 by Ridgewood, which is a company I've never heard of before, but actually this console name, the Game-Attic 7600, will be re-released by multiple companies. That happens actually quite a lot in this time, I don't know. But so that made it kind of hard to get a good dial in on what this was. But this one, the 1955 Texas Instruments chip, it was just in black and white, and it only played the AY3 8500 games. So I was like, well, there's really not much more to say about this,
Right.
You got, soccer, hockey, squash, and 2-player squash, and that's it. So, and basically, as far as how it looks and how it plays, it's exactly the same as the AY3 8500. So I really don't know why anybody would choose this over the AY3 8500, which everybody knew was good. Maybe some competition is better than nothing, but
right.
There's really nothing to talk about here. It's exactly the same. So, but I think we will talk about Texas Instruments next year. They're going to come out with some other stuff. So be ready for that.
Now we can move on from our consoles that we've been taking a look at. We have Blockbuster by Mirko that comes out in 76, which is basically just a clone of Breakout by Atari with a 2-player mode.
Sounds interesting. We also have Tic Tac Quiz by Sega, which came out sometime in 76. This is a trivia and tic-tac-toe game where if you answered your trivia question right, you could make a move on the tic-tac-toe board, and if you answer wrong, the computer gets a turn. Which,
Interesting.
yeah, which makes me feel like the game would be really short because if you got 3 right, it's like, well, unless if you answered 1 wrong, I guess the game could go on the whole time, right? Probably, but
Right. But if you know all the trivia questions, you just sweep them.
yeah, sweep them, and your 25 cents would be gone in like a minute of weird trivia gameplay.
Right. Oh man, that's an arcade cabinet too. That is weird.
Yeah, it is, right? But we're gonna move in now into our Salt 20 games. This is the Game Pack 1, starting with Wes's game.
Yeah, so I am excited to talk about this. As Ben mentioned, this is Game Pack 1. There were sort of several packs, and also I think people kind of programmed and made stuff for this that we don't exactly have good timelines for. But these we're pretty sure they came out in either late December of 76 or very early 77. So the first one that we're going to talk about, and probably one of the most iconic from this time, is Targ, or Target, for the Sol 20, written by Steve Dompier. There's this great website on sol20.org that has a bunch, I said it 2 different ways in the intro just then, oh well, that has a bunch of different resources. It has an emulator you can download, and then also has PDFs of the original manual and kind of instructions that people wrote up for these games. So this actually has lore to it, which is funny. Yeah, very weird lore. So there are unmanned robot ships that you have to shoot down with a guided photon torpedo. Getting that Star Trek in there because everyone's talking about photon torpedoes. And to quote here of why you're shooting down these robot ships, I'm going to read straight from the article. There are several types of spaceships containing dangerous cargoes of pesticides, DNA experiments, artificial flavoring, TV commercials, and so on. Which, yeah, I guess that's this guy's personal opinion of what he thought was dangerous to the civilized world. And also, he was probably joking, but I like that we're shooting down artificial flavorings because they're hurting people, basically.
Yeah.
And he also had this funny note at the bottom of the instructions that basically, to sum up, was like, hey, I know, people think shooting stuff is bad, but it's fun to do it in a game, so don't worry about it. And that's kind of it. And, I agree with him, so.
Hey, I mean, Death Race came out, so he's probably fine.
Yeah. And this game, we should mention, is ASCII characters, so
yeah.
We don't even really need to, worry about that too much. He was being a little bit
safe.
Ahead of the ball, yeah. So to talk about the ASCII characters, I just wanted to give a little brief tidbit. It stands for the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, and it's basically a numbering system that was used to allow computers to interpret and display symbols like the @ symbol or the ampersand or an asterisk or something like that. And people would make images out of them by kind of putting them together to make shapes and all that. And one other just weird and cool thing that this could do, if you had an AM radio and you played this demo version that came with Target, you could tune your AM radio so that it was picking up a signal from your Sol 20 computer, and it would play sound for this game, which I don't even know how it was transmitting a signal or if you had to plug it in, but it says AM radio, so I'm assuming it was broadcasting a signal while it was playing the game that you had to pick up.
That sounds like some weird sci-fi stuff, Wes.
It does, yeah, but it's cool because as far as I can remember, since we don't really have a lot of peripherals for computers, this might be the first or one of the first computer games with sound. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know.
Yes, I actually think some of the discrete logic games way back when maybe had some sound. I want to say one of the, it wasn't Birdie in the Brain, but something like Birdie in the Brain, which wasn't actually a computer, nothing that we would kind of look at and be like, this is a computer, has made sound so far. But there were earlier things that even predated modern computers that would do weird stuff like that. So,
right. So you can kind of lump it in with that. It's not like this computer has speakers that's making sound.
Right.
But still, it's a cool step as far as PC gaming kind of goes. So talking about the gameplay for this just in general, it's really a simple gameplay concept. You're shooting down ships. You're a turret at the bottom of the screen. But it has a lot of small, cool things going on that kind of make it really interesting. There's 3 different types of targets worth a different amount of points that you can shoot down. there's a little ship, a big ship, and then a parachute. Parachutes were dangerous cargo that spawned when two ships hit each other. And it's kind of interesting that all the ships were moving, they could go both directions, but they were moving horizontally. So if two of them hit and then a parachute spawned, it would move vertically. So you have two planes that you're trying to hit targets on, which is interesting for like trying to figure out your aiming based on something moving vertically and horizontally. Another small factor of all these targets is that ship explosions could also destroy other ships near them. And after they exploded, they turned into debris, and anything below them would also get destroyed.
Including like your cannon thing?
No. That you were pretty much invincible, but if another ship flew right under them and the wreckage was falling, it would hit them and then destroy it. Wow. Not sure if you got points for that, but it was pretty cool to like see the effect of like you shot something and then it blew up everything else on the screen. As far as losing points, if you miss a shot, you lose a little bit of points, and same thing if a ship makes it across the screen. It tracks your score as well as your hits, your shots, and how many misses that you had. And also, basically the whole thing is just to get as many points as possible within a time limit, which I think was 90 seconds, and I don't know if you could switch that time limit or not. There were actually 9 different speeds of play for this, which is kind of crazy, and 5 different aiming directions that you could shoot the turret at. It was basically like far left, a little bit less left, and then middle, and then the same for the right side. And the interesting part of this, and the reason that the lore is saying that it's a homing torpedo, is that if you move your turret after you fire your shot, the turret or the missile will curve and go to where you're aiming after you shoot it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It's pretty cool. And I mean, you're thinking that this is basically just being displayed by like, what are basically like letters or symbols on lines on the screen. But it does a pretty good effect of making it look like it's actually curving. This like little bullet, which is really just like an O and then like a plus sign alternating to make it look like it's a missile.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty believable. Like, I mean, you can tell where it's going pretty well. And as I mentioned before, there was also a demo mode that you can enter in to test the sound. But as far as I know, it was also just sort of like the demo modes in consoles where like the game would play itself for a little bit, which is pretty sweet for a computer game.
Mm-hmm.
And you even had the option to reset your high score if you wanted to. So getting into my ratings for this, for graphics, I gave it a 2 out of 10. It's a bit of like a weird thing to rate for graphics, I feel like, when the whole thing is ASCII characters.
Yeah.
Like, it's a computer game, so it's all black and white, and there's nothing like fantastic graphically from that sense. But what they do with the ASCII characters is like really impressive. The ship's bodies stay the same symbol the whole time, but it's an alternating symbol right at the back of them to make it look like they have a thruster, kind of. And like you can definitely tell what's going on. It's like a plus sign and a minus sign alternating. Each ship is like pretty different from each other as far as the big ship and the little ship. And as I mentioned, it's pretty easy to tell where the missile is traveling. And even the explosions look pretty good. It's just kind of like a bunch of asterisks show up on the screen to make it look like a big explosion or like a cloud or something. So, I mean, when you break it down, it really is just a bunch of symbols on the screen showing up at different times. But the way that they were used is super smart. And I think it probably because the graphics are so simple in that sense, it really allows for a lot more to be going on the screen at once. If you did the higher speeds of this game, there was like 6-7 ships on the screen at the same time, as well as your missile and your turret. So it's a weird one to rate because it's like, can you call it graphics? I personally think it is. I mean, it's like a graphical element of a game, but it's not like it's rendering like sprites and stuff like that. So
I mean, we've played text-based games, right? So it's
exactly
a lot better than that.
And it absolutely is, yeah. So I mean, I personally think it looks great. I just mainly gave it a 2 because it is ASCII characters.
Yeah.
But everything is super clear. You know what's going on, and all the scoring and details are very clear as well. So I definitely think it has really good visuals. For the sounds, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. It's a computer game with sound, which is super exciting. That being said, you have to have an AM radio to make it work.
Yeah.
And also the sounds aren't great. It's just like this kind of weird modulating, I don't even know how to describe it, like electronic sound. Also sounds a little radio static-ish, but that could have just been the recording I was listening to because it is coming through a radio, and you have to tune into the station. And it also doesn't seem like it reacts to the game at all. It's just sort of like background noise that you could have going on while you're playing the game, but it's still something. I mean, it's cool sound for a computer game. So I did like that aspect of it, but it's not really anything contextual to the game. So I didn't thought it was kind of lacking in that area. For gameplay though, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10 because even though at its core this gameplay is really simple, I think there's enough different elements going on that it really keeps my attention. Part of the whole PC gaming genre is like being able to have tons of choice in what you do and how to play the game. So I really love that you can choose 9 different speeds of the game and that it breaks down how the game is scored before you start playing it. So you can really like set your own challenge, say, okay, I'm going to be speed 5 this time, but also I'm going to try to get this many points and that kind of thing. I think it's super cool that the ships can crash into each other to create a new type of target and that it goes vertically instead of horizontally. And I just think it does a lot of neat stuff to keep it interesting, even though it really is a simple, just like shoot things that fly past kind of game. Realistically, though, you can't really play this forever. You are just competing with yourself, and unless you're comparing scores with your friends. So I could definitely see it getting stale, but I had a lot of fun when I was playing through this.
Sounds like it's pretty cool. I mean, it kind of reminds me of anti-aircraft, turret-based game. You're from the bottom, you're shooting airplanes at the top, but way better. Like, I think with that one, there were only ever 1 or 2 airplanes on the screen at one time, and they all look the same, So
yeah, if you put this on speed 1, which I think is the fastest, it's hectic. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, which sounds cool. So, and the homing sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Especially because you only have the 5 directions to shoot from. Like anti-aircraft, I think only had 3. So unless the aircraft were in 3 very specific places on the screen, you couldn't do anything,
Yeah, it feels like you can hit stuff that's sort of like out of the range of those 5 too, because you can curve stuff and hit it like in part of its trajectory.
Right.
So it's a really cool feature of it.
Cool. Nice.
For my relevance for this, sorry, I still had a couple more ratings. I know it sounded like I was wrapping up.
Yeah, it's all good.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. The Sol-20 computer itself is super relevant, and I think just because like the features that it had out of the box. And I think Targ is also very relevant for being recognizable in like the style of game that it is, and also for being on the Sol-20. I didn't know this game like specifically when I first saw it, but seeing this type of ASCII character game just felt like super nostalgic for me, of like a whole era of ASCII graphics and like that type of game. So even though I didn't know this one particularly, I think it kind of evokes like people know what kind of game this is when they see it and when they get into it.
Yeah, it's definitely the most popular Sol-20 game, I think.
Yeah, it seemed like that in my research too, that like this is the one that people are like, you got to play and check out, and that's what gaming on the Sol-20 for. And so for my overall rating, I gave it a 3 out of 10. I don't know why, but for me, there's an irresistible charm to this game. I think it's mainly the graphics, but also the gameplay is really fun too. And it just kind of makes me smile whenever I play it. So it's definitely worth checking out, especially since there's such a good resource on it, and it's really easy to download the emulator and get this to run.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely check it out if you get a chance. It's a fun one.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to go through now and talk about the rest of Game Pack 1. There are a lot of Sol-20 games released throughout its history. Most of them probably come out in 77. I haven't decided exactly how we're going to do that yet in 77, but that'll be for a future episode. But for right now, let's finish off Game Pack 1. The other games in it were Life, which we've already seen like a million times now. It's a basic game based off John Conway's Game of Life, where basically you I think you just put in the starting position and then you let it run, and it has these, a couple very simple rules that allow these, what they call populations, to be born and die, and that kind of creates nice little patterns and stuff, or die out completely, and you had to pick a new pattern. But so you have that one. Then you have another game called Pattern, And this just creates random or predetermined patterns. It's not really a game because you can't really do anything. But I guess you could just watch it go. And then the last game, which sounds pretty cool, and I really tried to play. I really did, but I couldn't play. It was called Zing. And the best way to describe this game, Wes, do you remember those Flash games where, like, I don't know, you're a pizza man and there's pizzas falling from the sky and you're just catching them, and your big...
Yes, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So basically that's what it is, except it's horizontal and it's 2-player, and whenever you like catch the pizza, you throw it back up, kind of. So it's
interesting. Okay.
It's basically like Pong, except there's a lot of balls on the screen and more keep spawning from the middle. And the balls don't really go like sideways or anything. You always throw them straight up and straight down. So it's kind of like a Pong game, but there's not really like physics in it. It's more like you just have to be there to catch it and throw it back, and you're just trying to bounce in between because there's multiple balls on the screen. You're just trying to make sure that none of them go past you. So
right.
Yeah, seems like a pretty cool one, honestly. A pretty good new version of Pong, in my opinion. So, because I'm sure that's what inspired it. But again, it was an ASCII character game, had like some unique gameplay, so I definitely wanted to cover it, but I couldn't get it to run correctly. So, but there are like good screenshots of it, so you guys can go check that out. And that's gonna do it for this Soul 20 stuff for right now. Anyway,
a lot of cool stuff on there. We'll eventually figure out what's going on with the rest of them, but expect some more cool stuff to come on that. And I'm always happy to see computer games in this list.
Oh yeah, me too. Especially when they're good.
Exactly. Yeah, like Targ. So, and Zing, it sounds like it's unfortunate we couldn't play it, but definitely a cool one, and we'll keep an eye out for future versions, if any, that we can play of that. But moving right along, the next honorable mention that we have is called Flipperball by Cinematronics Incorporated. It was either late 76 or early 77. Basically, though, it's just a clone of TV Pinball by Exidy, which came out in 1974, so it seems a little weird, but who knows the motivations there. And next up, we have Avus 2, which was by Atari Germany, that came out in late 76. And this was a German release of Sprint 2. We don't really have too much info of it, but it looks like it was a cocktail table setup.
Interesting. And that's going to move me to the next one I did rate. This is kind of like my backup from Zing. So, not exactly the first choice, but it is Meadows Games. So I'm like, well, hey, we've got a Meadows Games here. I got to check it out. It's basically their version of Blockade by Gremlin, which came out a couple episodes ago. And it's called Bigfoot Bonkers, which is a great name. I have to tell you about the cabinet, Wes, because with a name like that, you're expecting a big Bigfoot on it, right?
Right, yes.
Instead, you get what can only be described as a mouse who's on meth or crack at the same time. I don't know. He looks completely messed up.
Oh, man.
One of his feet are about as big as his face, and is one of those cartoony ones where the eyeballs are looking different directions. You got like buck teeth coming out, a big tongue coming out. Yeah, he looks messed up. And why is that there and not a Bigfoot? I don't know, but he definitely has big feet. So, but I don't know why it's a mouse. It looks like Chuck E. Cheese, but like the kind most people would be like, that guy's like a crack dealer inside the costume. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's basically what it looks like. So interesting marketing by them. The cabinet is basically all wood grain, but on the front of it you have that mouse guy, and then just a bunch of, it's like yellow, it says Bonkers on it, and then just a bunch of footprints, and that's kind of it. You got 2 joysticks. That's all you really need for like a snake game, I guess. But yeah, it's a kind of a weird one. But it's Meadows, so I can't be that upset about it.
Right. They can do what they want.
Yeah, I trust them. They knew what they were doing. At the time, maybe it was really relevant. I don't know. Maybe everybody thought Bigfoot was part of the mouse family. But yeah, this is a snake game. I think it had 1, 2, and 4-player version. I have no idea what was going on with the 1-player version, Wes. It was basically like the two snakes you get for 2-player, but you controlled them both with the same input, which I don't really know why you would do that other than just to try to go for as long as you can, but
Yeah. Okay.
it's pretty hard to like control them both at the same time and not hit each other or the walls. But you had that, you had the 2-player. I think you had 4-player. No, I'm confusing it with the next one on our list. This one only had 2-player, but still, it's a snake game. It's pretty standard. Let me get into my ratings because I think that'll be the easiest way to describe this. Let's start with sound because this was the biggest disappointment of the machine. There are some other unique things that the machine does, but for sound, the sound was very similar to Blockade or Co-Motion and how it sounded, but it was not based upon what direction that the snakes were moving. It was just a constant sound. So that kind of really took away from it and just made it a lot more annoying because you didn't get a bunch of different tones. You didn't get some music accidentally being made. It was kind of just like whatever they had set is like, that's it. So it wasn't quite as good. So I knocked sound down a little bit. I gave sound 2 out of 10 because it's still a unique sound. It's not Pong sounds, And I think for a game or two, you'd be fine hearing it. It's not like the most annoying thing I've ever heard, but you're not going to be able to play this for half an hour,
Right, yeah.
So 2 out of 10 for sound. For graphics. Now this is kind of be tied to the gameplay a little bit. The biggest reason why I kind of wanted to cover this is actually because it introduces obstacles in Snake, which I think is kind of cool. For each game, you've got, I want to say like 3 or 4 footprint sprites that just pop down on the screen randomly in a random location. And if you run into them, your snake will die. So it kind of makes this game, which previously the screen is the exact same every single time. It's a blank screen. The snakes start at the same place. You probably have some method of going pretty far in it, But this time there's kind of random obstacles that, right from the get-go, one player could, like their side could have 3 of the sprites and the other player only have 1 or something. So like I feel like comebacks and stuff could be a lot, like there's a lot more potential for it. The sprites aren't like massive, so they're fairly easy to avoid, but still, it just adds some uniqueness to the gameplay. And the sprite of a Bigfoot is actually pretty nicely done and looks like a Bigfoot, so that was cool. What was not cool was that it's in black and white. I don't know why they did that, because even Blockade and Co-Motion, they had green overlays, right? So why couldn't you just put a yellow overlay over this or something? I don't know. But they just left it black and white. The snakes do look a little different. One of the snakes is basically just composed of these like filled in square blocks, and then the other one is like not filled in square blocks. So you can easily tell one player from the next, which is nice. The outside is just X's. I don't really know why. Maybe it's supposed to look like a fence or something. It's kind of a weird outline. I can't tell if I would prefer it over just a straight line, but it's X's for some reason. And then you have the score screen and stuff, but that's kind of it. So it's like not great graphics, but I like the footprint. Like you're adding sprites into Snake, which is great. Because anytime you have a sprite of anything, I'm like, this is a sprite, I like that.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's still just Snake. It's still mostly a blank screen at the beginning. And the snakes, they do look different, but they're not like great looking. So I just gave graphics a 2 out of 10. I think it's like passable, but I'm kind of looking for something a little bit nicer. But they do have it, it is unique to Bigfoot Bonkers. It's the only one with a big sprite of a foot in it. So I guess it's all right. And then for gameplay, I gave that a 2.5 out of 10. This is very similar to Snake. You have a 1-player version for some reason, which I don't think adds a whole lot. But just having the obstacles in there, I think does add a nice new kind of dimension to the gameplay. I don't think it takes it far enough. I kind of would like a lot of sprites in there or a lot of obstacles to really, kind of force you to make these tight turns and stuff. Maybe they just are assuming that'll happen later in the game, but I wouldn't mind it if the games went, a little bit faster. Because if you're good,
Right.
you could go until the entire screen's filled up, But yeah, so I think they could have pushed it a little bit farther, but I kind of like their innovation on blockade and co-motion. I'm looking forward to the next person's innovations more, but it is an innovation nonetheless. So it added a little bit of gameplay, and like I said, made it so that comebacks and having one player be kind of at a handicap for one round is kind of cool. And the fact that they're random, I think, is also really, really good. Because if it would be the same every time, it'd be like playing a blank screen again. Like you would just be able to figure
Right.
it out. But
Yeah, you'd already learn it after like 3 games, and you're like, okay, never mind.
yeah. So the randomness is cool. And then for relevance, I give it 4 out of 10. Like I said, I think it's improving the genre a little bit. And it's definitely going to be a genre of games. Like these snake games are going to be pretty big coming up. But I don't think many people remember this game. As big as Meadows games are to us, I don't think they're that relevant to the wider collective, even back then.
Right.
So, but it's cool. It was a cool one to do. I'm glad I did it. And that's going to leave me with a 2.5 out of 10 total, Wes. Snake. It turns out to be pretty fun. In an age where we're talking about Pong for every single game,
Right.
I'll take Snake any day.
Any Snake clones at this point, maybe we'll regret saying it by the end of 77,
Yeah.
but we're happy to see them.
Yeah, especially if it's a Meadows game that has a really messed up looking mouse on it, on
Yes.
down.
Who I looked up and can confirm, man, he's weird.
Yeah, I feel like he's weird, but I would totally like get a tattoo of him or something. I don't know.
There you go. You heard it here first.
He's got a charm to him that like you got to be kind of messed up to like, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, he looks really. It looks like he's grasping something, but it's not really anything.
Just shaking a fist. I don't
Yeah,
know.
one of his hands is like in a fist. I don't know. His whole body looks kind of weird. Like at first, I was like, "Is he on a unicycle?" It's kind of hard. It's kind of like weird. He's like on his tiptoes. One of his feet is like way in the air. He's got a very small tail. It's very weird looking, but I have no idea why they did that. But it does add to the charm a little bit. So yeah, 2.5 out of 10. Sprites, I'll give you points for that, man. I'm not afraid to give people points. And the big feet actually look pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. What do you think, Wes? A good backup, maybe, hopefully?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it at least sounds interesting, if nothing else. I mean, it's got some weird stuff going on, some coolness, some strange Meadows Games choices, which we always like to see.
Yeah.
And sprites. I mean, there you go. It's different enough, I feel like, to be a cool entry to cover.
It's interesting that they saw like this brick building game and they're like, we can make this Bigfoot based.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like it. So that was Bigfoot Bonkers. Very interesting name, very interesting game. And that's going to move me to the next one. Another blockade co-motion clone that I could have rated and decided, no, I'm going to go with the Meadows Games one. And this one's called Barricade by Ramtech. I have, by the way, seen one or two sources say this was by Taito. My guess is that Ramtech made it and then licensed it to Taito in Japan. But just watch out for that. But this is called Barricade. Basically, it's exactly like Blockade and co-motion, except I think the only real difference was in graphics. Like instead of the bricks, you had squares that had an arrow of the direction you were moving at the time that you made that move. So you can kind of like follow this trail of arrows to see where the snake went, which is kind of cool. But that's kind of it. So I much prefer the one that added random obstacles, to me.
Yes.
That's the better clone. So we went Bigfoot Bonkers.
You got it, Bigfoot Bonkers.
Oh, yeah.
And next up for our last honorable mention, we have Micro Chest by Peter Jennings. Came out December 18th of 76. And this is the first ever chess game for a microcomputer, and it was sold on the Kim 1.
Which is definitely a computer that we'll be talking about next year. So that's going to do it for us today, guys. It's been an awesome episode. It's been a bit of a shorter one, a bit of a weirder one because I couldn't play all the games I wanted to play, but that's what happens at the end of the year when you can't really have like extra backups, like this is it. This is all the games we had to
Right.
choose from. So but it's really exciting. We're going to get into 77, which I mean, other than the 100 consoles, which we're going to do in basically one honorable mention, is going to be great. So we've got some really cool stuff there. The first ever arcade vector graphics game is going to come out.
Ooh, oh yeah.
We've got the next version of Pet 5 coming out. We've got
Oh, my
so
goodness.
much good stuff, dude. Some great
Get me back
racing
into
games.
those RPGs. I'm ready.
Yeah. So it'll be cool, and I'm always excited about checking out our favorites for 76. So I hope you guys enjoyed 76. Honestly, it's been a very, very good year, I think. We've had a lot of great stuff, a lot of innovations in racing and in consoles, which coming into 76, like black and white was like standard. And the AY3 8500 at the time was like, this is like a really good one. And now it's
Right.
like, this sucks. This has color and it's terrible, but so consoles have just taken off. We had the first ever second gen console, the Fairchild, come out. I mean, what can you say, Wes? This has been just a great year. Colossal Cave Adventure, that came out this year.
So much good stuff, and too much to mention, but we'll do our best in our special topic next episode to talk about what we loved about it, what we did not love so much about it, of course, because that's fun. You gotta.
Yeah.
And it'll be good. But make sure to check us out on Twitter. Tweet at us if you have any questions, or send us an email if you want to reach out to us. And always make sure to check out our website too. Just keeping up with that when we can, and updating it with new information.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys in the next one.